Akbar Tony is a coming-of-age comedy drama. It's a story about three friends who've grown up in West London. Amar is a Sikh, Akbar is a Muslim, and Tony is an Irish Catholic. And they're basically childhood friends who've grown up together, and it's very much a London film, and it's about, it spans a period of 10 years in these guys' lives, and the highs and lows that they go through, and how it challenges their friendship at times. The title is I guess, an homage or inspired by a Bollywood film, a Hindi film called Amar Anthony. And the thing with Amar Anthony was, what made it so special and important was it was a story about three brothers separate. And this is for people who don't know, right? It's a story about three brothers separated at birth, and one of them grows up in a Muslim household, one grows up in a Christian household, one grows up in a Hindu household, and they go their separate ways, and eventually their paths cross, their destiny brings them together, and they're brothers. But what I loved about it, and what I kind of connected it to multicultural London, was the fact that, here we are, we're growing up in the same little melting pot, and, we may be from different cultures originally, but, the great thing about London is we all bond together, and we kind of breathe the same air in many ways. And I kind of like the connection with Amar Anthony, the spiritual connection with it. So that's kind of all there is in that sense. It's not a remake. It has no three brothers lost at birth. In fact, these are three friends who get to meet each other at the age of 9 and are friends for a very long time afterwards. To be honest, I guess, looking at myself, I'm of Indian origin, and I live in the UK. And I've grown up with friends around here who also share that, as well as having grown up with friends who've got nothing to do with that culture. And so, it feels like, these are characters I don't feel that get the opportunity to be on screen enough. Also, on the whole, I don't think the representation of Asians that I see on screen in the UK rings true to me. I don't believe the accents, I don't believe most of the characters, I don't know them. And so I kind of felt, well, it's a story that I wanted to tell, and I wanted to put people on screen that I believed and knew and recognized, which I feel other people will do so too. In the last 25 years, I think you can safely say there's probably been a handful of films with British Asian characters in them over that 25-year period. And if it was a handful of 10, maybe 2 or 3 are coming-of-age stories. I don't know. But, I guess for me, these characters are different. It's also a slightly, more male perspective. It's also not about shunning the Asian heritage, which some of these coming-of-age stories have been about wanting to leave behind their Asian heritage or their cultural background. And this is very much about assimilating and valuing their cultural background, but also wanting to go forward in a multicultural environment. So it's different from that point of view. It's, it wears its kind of Asian heart proudly on its sleeve, and it's a fun film. It's and you can only do watch it and judge it off the back of that. Yeah, to some degree. I used a very simple premise when I started writing this, which was, if I was to gauge me and my friends over a 10-year period, and not just necessarily me and my friends, or if a set of 3 friends over a 10-year period, there's a point where you're hanging around and, a lot of banter, spending a lot of time together, chasing after girls or whatever it is. And, then you go to start your jobs, you find a partner, you get married, you get divorced, all these other things that come into play. And over a 10-year period, a lot happens. And I kind of looked at this almost as, well, if I knew these 3 guys over a 10-year period, and I had like 10 or 15 days with them over those 10 years, how would I drop into their lives? Where would I drop into their lives? What would I find would be happening in their lives? Would their spine of friendship still be together? And I think, and this is why, the film does have elements of comedy and serious tones, as well as romantic interests. And because I've always seen it as what if I dipped in at that stage? And what if I dipped in at that stage? And that was the kind of the template I was looking at, where, I know, say, for example, with my own friends, even when we've gone through, very challenging times between ourselves, when we're together, we still have a laugh, and we can still talk about those things in a humorous way. And you know, we kind of need that as a group of friends to be able to kind of come back and survive through more challenging aspects. And that's something I have brought into the film, where, you know, there's a couple of things where the characters do go through challenging situations, and their support, their friendships carries them through it, and that's pretty important. And so, yeah, I think that reflects aspects of things that me and my friends have been through. I think there's two things, though, for me personally, that I think multiculturalism has worked, and I personally benefited from it in the sense that, you know, particularly in London, and being from London, where, you know, I feel really privileged to grow up around so many different cultures and have to have friends of so many different cultures, and I think it's an opportunity that a lot of other people don't have in other countries, and I think, you know, we should never, ever, ever take that for granted, because it's such a valuable thing. So I think on many levels it has worked. What's problematic, or what I see as problematic with a lot of things at the moment, is there's a lot of scaremongering. About misrepresenting other cultures and what they might be, and not seeing a whole rounded side of it. And so from that point of view, I think, you know, going back to Akbar Tony, I think there is an aspect that's important to me about showing us, I mean, as in other cultures that are living in, or, you know, living in the UK, as being normal individuals with normal problems, and, you know, a balanced point of view on life, you know, as opposed to all being quite rigid in our points of view. So I think there's two things there. For me, yes, it does work. Yes, it does need to be reflected. The positive side of multiculturalism does need to be reflected a bit more, rather than just the negative side, which I think is a kind of scaremongering that's been going on. No, I don't think it's enough. I really don't. I think it's one step forward, two steps back. That's been happening a long time, and I think there certainly isn't enough of a range. I mean, I think America is starting to do it, and they've, you know, but they're doing it after, you know, a lot of initiatives that have taken place to make it happen. And so you watch an American series, you know, whether it's The Big Bang Theory or whether it's The Good Wife, and these characters are there, and some of them are playing Asian parts, but the Asian aspect becomes irrelevant because their parts are written so well that the actors have a chance. Whereas here, I think it's quite limited, the scope that of opportunity that actors get. And what that also means then is they don't get the chance to develop their craft beyond playing a doctor or beyond playing a newsagent. And so if you know, how do you grow if you're not getting that kind of range of work? So I think it's really important that there is a different, you know, different storylines, different characters offered to them. And likewise, behind the camera, I think, you know, I think if you speak to people like Directors UK, you know, the percentage of, you know, black or Asian directors that are actually there in the UK is, you know, it's actually embarrassing. It's ridiculous. And what that does is, you know, so for example, for me, I guess you have a different perspective. You look at things a different way, and you can kind of see characters in a different way, and not shy away from giving a particular person a kind of role. And I think you need that kind of variety both behind and in front of the camera. I think, but you know, I think people are aware of it, and the industry's aware of it, and it's you know, hopefully something that will be addressed. As far as I'm concerned, I've had to make the film myself. You know, I've had to raise the money independently, and we're even having to go out and distribute it ourselves. And you know, I don't know if good things are being done. They're being done. I hope they are. But there's also a point of, well, if they're not being done, doesn't mean you stop. You know, you've got to get on and do your own thing, you know. And I think there's enough templates of that, whether it's, you know, Spike Lee, whether it's John Cassavetes. There's a lot of filmmakers out there who've actually had to just go out and make their films their own way and put them out there their own way. And you know, rather than sitting there waiting for someone to kind of go, you know, I sanction you, you know, which can be a long process, and also what it can do is kind of dilute the kind of work that you might want to do. So you just get on and do it. So I don't know. Hopefully stuff is being done. I'll find out. I'll let you know. This film relies on word of mouth because, you know, when I say we're distributing ourselves, it means means we don't have the money to put the posters on buses, on the tubes, or to have our commercials playing on mainstream channels, or any channels for that matter. So we're relying on people to get behind it, you know, hopefully like it and tell other people about it. And you know, and the thing to remember is, you know, it's if we want to see more films reflecting us, we've got to kind of go out and show that we want to see more films reflecting us. And you know, from my part, I've kind of made something very sincerely, something I believe in, and you know, it might not be the definitive answer to life, but it's certainly a step forward, and then it's certainly an alternative representation, and it's certainly an attempt at showing different characters in different ways. And you know, I think what should be happening is there should be a few of us going out making stuff and showing different side of things, so that we can all kind of, you know, evolve as storytellers and telling different stories and telling a range of different stuff. And whereas at the moment, you know, there isn't enough of us. Well, there are enough of us around, but not enough of us getting the chance to get our films out there. You know, we're having to create those chances, you know, which is not bad. So, well, Nina is a comic genius. I mean, I think she's brilliant. Firstly, I've got to say, both Nina and Mira, I'm going to take this opportunity to say, you know, I owe them a big, big thank you for taking on these parts, because, you know, they don't need to. And, you know, they bring so much to the film. Their comic timing, their sense of, you know, understanding a role, for me, I think is brilliant, and they made our lives so much easier. And both of them brought so much to the role. I mean, they kind of read them and said, oh, wouldn't it be interesting if we did it like this? And I'd be like, yeah, I mean, geez. And to be fair, I think the leather, if I recall correctly, I know it was in my head, but I wasn't feeling comfortable enough kind of approaching Nina to say, hey, Nina, how do you fancy getting into this leather outfit? And I don't know if she read my mind or whether she, you know, she just went, so why don't I get into that leather outfit? And you could just sense a sigh of relief around the set, because all the crew were, I mean, everybody knew that we'd love it if she did that, but we didn't feel, you know, I certainly as a director, I was kind of like hedging around, kind of humming and hawing and trying to be polite. And, you know, she goes, oh, why don't I just do that? And we were like, okay, yeah, please, thank you. And so she was great. She's a great sport.